Hello dear learners, welcome to SWAYAM NPTEL course on Methodology of Educational Research, and I am Dr. Sarita Anand from Department of Education, Vinay Bhavan, Vishwabharati Shantiniketan. And today we will talk about the module 47 on interview as a tool and technique of data collection. This is module 47, lecture 47, and before going to the lecture we will go through the concepts covered. Earlier we had completed the lecture of process of tool construction and standardization. In that lecture, concepts and principles of research tool construction we have covered, stages of tool construction, characteristics of standardized research tools, standardization process, item writing and item analysis we had completed. Now we will go through the interview as a tool and technique of data collection. Research interviews provide researchers with an opportunity to develop or delve deep into the thoughts, experiences and the perspectives of an individual, thus enabling a comprehensive understanding of complex phenomena. This is one of the important methods of primary data collection. It is a conversation and between the observation and respondent. So, it is oral verbal questions and corresponding oral verbal response to the queries made. This is done with the help of structured schedule, we call it interview schedule. The concept of interview, usually understood as a face-to-face encounter, can be extended to include telephone interview and today's context video interviews also. In interview is a way to get information from a person by asking questions and hearing their answers. Or we can say that an interview is a question and answer session where one person asks questions and the other person answer those questions. It can be one-on-one or two-way conversation, or there can be more than one interviewer and more than one participant. Like in job interviews, you have seen the more than one interviewer. And about the interview questions, as per the need and requirement and the type of the research, there are different types of interview questions, like the open-ended question, close-ended questions, probing questions, situational questions, behavioral questions and follow-up questions. So, there are different types of questions, and the main three features of the research interview are as follows. The first one is flexibility, then elaborative, and the third one is contextual understanding. So, if you are going to conduct the research interview, then researcher can explore the emerging areas by designing their questions and probe accordingly based on the participants' responses. Participants can clarify their responses or complex ideas during the interviews. This reduces the chances of misinterpretation and facilitate exploration of nuances or gaps in the participants' responses. So, it is elaborative. If any query from the interviewee side, then they can ask the question from the interviewer. Then contextual understanding, interviewers capture the contextual factors that influence the participants' experiences and perspective. Researchers can explore the social, cultural and environmental factors that shape the individual's viewpoint, and this image has been taken from the source which I have mentioned here in the picture below. So, the significance of research interviews in gathering the primary data. What is the significance? The role of research interviews in gathering the first hand information is invaluable. Additionally, they allow researchers to interact directly with the participants, enabling them to collect unfiltered primary data. This research interview is providing subjective experiences, personal insight, clarification and validation, contextual information and non-verbal cues are present. So, let us start with the subjective experience. This research interview facilitates in-depth exploration of a research topic. Thus, by engaging in one-to-one conversation with the participant, researchers can delve into the complex experiences and the perspectives and the opinions of the respondent. This allows comprehensive understanding of the research subject that may not be possible through the other methods. Also, research interviews offer the unique advantages of capturing subjective experiences through personal narratives. Moreover, participants can express their thoughts, feelings and beliefs, which add depth to the finding. The second significance is personal insight. The research interview offer an opportunity for the participant to share their views, opinions and objectives they are being interviewed for. Furthermore, participants can express their thoughts and experiences, providing rich qualitative data. Consequently, these personal narratives add a human element to the research, thus enhancing the understanding of the topic from participants' perspective. Research interview offer the opportunity to uncover unanticipated insights or emerging themes. Additionally, open-ended questions and active listening can help the researchers to identify new perspectives, ideas or patterns that may not have been initially considered. As a result, these factors can lead to new avenues for the exploration in the research. The third significance is clarification and validation of the participant side. For participants' responses and validate their understanding during an interview. Researcher can clarify the participant's view. These ensures the accurate data collection and interpretation. Additionally, researchers can probe deeper into the participant's statement, seek clarification on any ambiguity in the information if they found. The fourth one is contextual information. With the help of research interviews, it allows researchers to gather the contextual information that offers a comprehensive understanding of the research topic. Additionally, participants can provide insight into the social, cultural or environmental factors that shape their experiences, behaviors and beliefs. This contextual information helps researchers place the data in a broader context and facilitates a more nuanced analysis. The fifth one is non-verbal cues. Yes, in addition to the verbal responses, research interviews allow researchers to observe non-verbal cues. This is not available in any other research tool. These non-verbal research cues such as body language, facial expression and tone of the voice provides cues can convey information such as emotions, attitude, level of comfort, etc. at the time of interview. Furthermore, integrating non-verbal cues with verbal responses provides a more holistic understanding of participants' experiences and enriches the data collection procedure. So, research interviews offer several advantages, making them a reliable tool for collecting information. However, choosing the right type of research interview is essential for collecting the useful data for the research. So, what are the fundamental types of interviews in research? A researcher has to conduct interview with a group of participants at a juncture in the research where the information can only be obtained by meeting and personally connecting with a section of their target audience. Interviews offer the researchers a platform to prompt their participants and obtain input into desired detail. There are three fundamental types of interview in the research. First one is structured interview, second one is semi-structured interviews and the third one is unstructured interview. There are few other research interviews that researchers can use based on their research goals, the nature of their study and the data they aim to collect. Here are some common types of research interviews, including these three fundamental interviews these are mentioned in the several other books. We can go one by one. The first one is structured interview. Structured interviews have predetermined questions in a set order. because by the name we can understand this is structured pre-planned. So, we can call it planned interview, and unstructured is unplanned, and semi-structured is semi-planned. They are often closed ended, featuring dichotomous yes or no or multiple choice of questions. While open ended structured interview exist, they are much less common. The type of question asked make structured interviews as predominantly quantitative tool. Asking set questions in a set order can help you see patterns among the responses, and it allows you to easily compare responses between the participants while keeping other factors constant. This can mitigate research biases and lead to higher reliability and validity. However, structured interviews can be overly formal as well as limited in scope and flexibility. So, structured interview may be good or fit for your research if you feel very comfortable with your topic. This will help you formulate your questions most effectively. If you have limited time or resources, structured interviews are a bit more straightforward to analyze because of their close-ended nature and can be doable undertaking for an individual researcher. If your research question depends on the holding environment conditions between the participant context, then you can go for the structured interview. Main features of the structured interviews. Structured interviews are standardized and follow a fixed format. Therefore, these interviews have a predetermined set of questions. All the participants ask the same set of questions in the same order. Therefore, this type of interview facilitates standardization and allows easy comparison and quantitative analysis of responses. As a result, structured interviews are used in surveys or studies which aims for a high level of standardization and comparability. The second type of interview is semi-structured interview. This semi-structured interview offers a considerable amount of leeway to the researcher to probe the respondents. So, along with the maintaining a basic interview structure. It is mix of both structured and unstructured. Even if it is a guided conversation between the researcher and the interviewees, applicable flexibility is offered to the researchers. A researcher can be assured that the multiple interviews rounds will not be required in the presence of a structure in this type of research interview. So, keeping the structure in mind, the researcher can allow or follow any idea or create advantage of entire interview. Additional respondent probing is always necessary to garner information for a research study. The best application of semi-structured interview is when the researcher does not have time to conduct research and requires detailed information about the topic. Main features of the semi-structured interviews. Semi-structured interviews offer a flexible framework by combining predetermined questions. So, this gives an opportunity for follow-up questions and open-ended discussions. Researchers have a list of core questions, but can adapt the interview depending on the participants' responses. So, researcher is ready to grasp the responses. Consequently, this allows for in-depth exploration while maintaining some level of consistency across interviews. As a result, semi-structured interviews are widely used in qualitative researches where content-rich data is desired. The third type is unstructured interview. Also, it is called as in-depth interview. Unstructured interviews are usually described as a conversational held with a purpose in mind to gather the data about the research study. In-depth data is required, then go for the unstructured interview. These interviews have the least number of questions as they learn or lean more towards a normal conversation, but with an underlying subject. The main objective of most researchers using unstructured interviews is to build a bond with the respondents. due to which there is a high chance that the respondents will be 100% truthful with their answers. There are no guidelines for the researchers to follow. So, they can approach the participants ethically to gain as much information as possible about their research topic. Since there are no guidelines for these interviews, a researcher is expected to keep their approach in check so that respondents do not sway away from the main research motive. So, for a research purpose, if we are focusing on the qualitative research, in-depth research, then go for the unstructured interviews. So, main features of the unstructured interviews are that it provides the greatest flexibility and freedom in the interview process. These types do not have a predetermined set of questions, thus the conversation flow naturally based on the participants' responses and the researchers' interest and flow of the conversation. Moreover, this type of interview allows for open-ended and exploration and encourages participants to share their experiences, thoughts and perspectives freely. Unstructured interviews useful to explore new or complex research topics with limited preconceived questions. The fourth type is these three were the fundamental type, and these are the other research books mentioning that the group interviews, we call it group focus groups. The group interviews involve multiple participants who engage in a facilitated discussion on a specific topic. This format allows the interaction in exchange of ideas among participants, generating a group dynamic. Therefore, group interviews are beneficial for capturing diverse perspectives and generating collective insights. They are often used in market research, social sciences and studies demanding the shared experiences. The fifth one is narrative interview. By name you can understand the narrative interview focus on eliciting the participants' personal stories and views, their personal narration, experiences and narratives. Researchers aim to look into the individual's life journey. As a result, this type of interview allows participants to construct and share their own narratives, providing rich qualitative data. Qualitative research, oral history, studies focusing on the individual experiences and identities uses narrative interviews. The sixth type is ethnographic interviews. By its name we can understand that ethnographic interviews are conducted within the context of ethnographic research, where researchers immerse themselves in a specific social and cultural setting. These interviews aim to understand the participants' experiences, beliefs and practices within their own cultural context, thereby understanding diversity in different ethnic groups. Furthermore, ethnographic interviews involve building rapport, observing the participants' daily life and engaging in the conversation that capture and nuance of the culture under study. Now, it must be noted that these interview types are not mutually exclusive. Therefore, researchers often employ a combination of approaches to gather the most comprehensive data for their research. The choice of interview types depends on the research objectives and the nature of the research topic. So, other classifications of the types of interviews are there, like classification according to formality, we call it formal interview or informal interview. Classification according to the number of personal interview and group interview. Classification according to the purpose, like diagnostic interview, treatment interview, research interview and the interview to fulfill the curiosity. Classification according to the period of contact, short contact interview, prolonged contact interview. Classification according to subject matter, like qualitative interview, quantitative interview or mixed interview. So, this kind of classification you will also find in different research books. Now, the steps conducting a research interview. Research interview offers several benefits, and thus careful planning and execution of the entire process is very important to gather in-depth information from the participants. While conducting an interview, it is essential to know the necessary steps to follow for ensuring success. The steps to conduct a research interview are as like first identify the objectives and understand the goals of the research, then select a appropriate interview format. The third is organize the necessary material for the interview. Fourth, understand the questions to be addressed. Fifth step, analyze the demographics of interviewees. Sixth, select the interviewees, then design the interview questions to gather the sufficient information. And the eighth is schedule the interview, and ninth, explain the purpose of the interview, and lastly on the 10th point, analyze the interviewee based on his or her responses. So, steps of conducting a research interview talks about the technique of interviewing. Although the interview as a research tool can be modified according to the needs of the research institution, there are certain techniques that need to be understood. These techniques deal with the preparation of the interview, conducting the interview, recording the information gathered. Let us understand the whole interview process. First, one is preparation for the interview. It is necessary to plan carefully for an interview. The interviewer must decide exactly what kind of data the interview should yield. Whether the structured, unstructured type of interview will be more useful, how the results of interview should be recorded. It is advisable to try out the interview on some persons before using it to actual investigation. This is helpful in revealing the deficiencies or shortcomings that need to be corrected before going to interview carried out in the real situation. The interview must have clear idea of sort information she needs and may accordingly prepare a list of questions in form of schedule. Interview schedule is a device consisting of a set of questions researcher asked and filled in by an interviewer in a face-to-face situation with the interviewees. Since it is administered personally, it provides the researcher an opportunity to establish a rapport with the respondents. This helps the researcher to explain the nature and purpose of the investigation and to make the meaning of the questions clearer to the respondents in case they misinterpret or not understand the question or give incomplete indefinite response. So, the schedule also economizes time and expenses of the investigation. The second step is conduct of interview. In the conduct of interview, a harmonious relationship between the interviewer and interviewee is most essential. A good rapport helps the interviewee to feel the ease and express himself or herself willingly. In order to establish a good rapport, the interviewer should greet the interviewee in a very friendly manner, so as to get settled in a relaxed manner. Then go for the next step, recording of the interview, then closure of the interview. And if you are talking about the recording, take the permission before recording either audio or video. Then at the time of closure, say thank you, be humble, be polite and be thankful towards the interviewee. Then method of research interview, there are basically two methods of conducting the research interview, each of which is very peculiar in its application and can be used according to the research study requirement. These are personal and telephonic interviews. The first is a personal interview. The personal interview is a survey method of data collection which employs a schedule. The component of personal interview are researcher and the interviewee and the interview environment. Under the guidance of the researcher, several interviewers will be sent with the questionnaire or the schedule to meet the respondents interviews of the survey for seeking responses to the questionnaire under the defined interview, and we call it schedule. Then the environment is defined in terms of place, time and several other factors which will influence the interviewees. Personal interview can be classified into following like door to door interview, executive interview, mall intercept surveys, self administered questionnaires, purchase intercept techniques, etc. So, door to door interview is interviewer will go to the residence of the each selected respondent customer and obtain responses from the items in the schedule by direct interviewing with himself or herself for consumer good or any other topic of the study. It is time consuming and costly process to go door to door. Then executive interview is the same as door to door interviewing, except that the interviewees are the industrial executives and the products are industrial goods. It is a costly and time taking and time consuming also. Mall intercept interview is conducted in shopping complexes. I think you all are having this experience where a diverse spectrum of consumers can be interviewed. The people who pass through that place will be used to respond for filling up the interview schedule. In this method, the interviewers are stationed in a particular place of an area and the people who come to that area will be sampled and served with the interview schedule or the questionnaire, and hence it is less costly and quickly processed. Then the self administered interview, the respondents will be issued with the questionnaire and they will be asked to fill them in their own. This means that the interviewers will be absent while filling up the questionnaire, and this method has the advantage of removing the interviewer's bias. But the absence of interviewer will make the respondents to assume some irrelevant responses for some open ended questions for which the respondents have limited knowledge or doubt. So, it allows costly and quick process, but it is not suggested in educational researches. Purchase intercept technique, it is a direct interviewing method in which the customers will intercept and interviewed after they select their items from any showroom or shopping complex. The main objective of this method is to will be able to get the buyers to have better recall and compare the product of interest which competing brands with the greater accuracy, since they are yet to complete the buying process, and it means on the spot they are taking the interview of the customers. But in this method, sampling is restricted to the buyers who completed the selection of the some items to buy. Hence, a complete randomization selection of sampling unit is prohibited in this method. The second, first one was personal interviews. Now, the second type is telephonic interview for the conducting the methods of research interview. Telephones as a communication device are also widely used for the personal interviews and the interviews in the researches for the screen rare respondents types. This popularly possible because the widespread acceptance of the telephone or mobile as a necessary communication device, and we all are having the smartphones in our hands. So, telephone interviewing has some substantial advantages and disadvantages compared to the alternative method. When respondent cannot be contacted personally, then information which is required to collect can be collected through phone. This method is not widely used, but even then it is main source for survey in developed regions. It is used in the condition where respondents are widely scattered, telephones are especially economical, and it is also used in reaching individuals who are located in such a remote place that face to face interview would be difficult and expensive, as well as those who may not bother answering a mailed questionnaire. So, these days video conferencing are utilized rather than this telephonic interview. Now, the conclusion. In conclusion, we can say that the interview is a very useful and flexible research tool that enables the collection of rich and in-depth and contextual data directly from the respondents. So, it is providing the primary data. It allows researchers to explore thoughts, feelings, experiences and meaning that may not be adequately captured through the structured tools such as questionnaires or tests. When carefully planning and skillfully conducted interviews enhance the depth and authenticity of the qualitative data, and however, their effectiveness depends on the clear objective, well constructed questions, interviewer competence and ethical sensitivity. Despite challenges such as subjectivity and time consumption, interviews remain indispensable in educational and social research for understanding complex human behavior and perspectives. So, here are the few references. I hope you will go through these references, and thank you. Keep learning.